it's back to revision, and today we're going to be doing some financial maths tips. We're going to be looking at both household and, well, personal and business finance tips, and we're going to be looking at the following key concepts. We're going to be looking at what is income. Now, income is the money that comes into the business, into your household. So it's the money you've got then to spend on all the things that we'd like. And all those things are classified as expenses. They could be anything from paying your electricity bill to buying your favorite groceries to all sorts of things that you actually are paying out. Profits is basically defined as when you've taken your income and you take away your expenses, it's the money that's left over. So if we wrote that as a formula, income minus expenses. Now, sometimes we're not very lucky and our expenses are a little bit more than the money that came in. So then we end up with something called a loss. So this could be a loss as well. So if your answer is negative, it could be classified as a loss. Then we deal with something called break even. And usually on your graph, if I was plotting my income and expenses, my break even is that point there where they cross over. Another key concept that we need to know about is that horrible word called tax. There's many different types of taxes. The main ones that we deal with are called VAT, VAT, which stands for Value Added Tax. And that in South Africa is charged on any goods that we purchase or any services that we buy, or most of them anyway. And at this moment in time, we are dealing with 14% VAT. Another type of tax that we all have to pay if we earn any money is income tax. And depending on how much we earn will depend on how much we have to pay the taxman. The taxman in South Africa is SARS, which is the South African Revenue Services. Inflation is the percentage increase from 1 month or 1 year to the next when goods are increasing in value. So it's a percentage increase. And that percentage increase is usually referred to as the inflation rate. Interest is sometimes a good thing, sometimes a bad thing. Interest can be paid on investments. But if you've borrowed money, it's also paid to the bank for loans. So that's your borrowing. Currency fluctuations is when you're buying foreign exchange. That's money from other countries. So depending on which country you're going to, you would have to look at the exchange rate to find out the value of your money. These are a few topic tips that you need to know about the key skills in this topic. First of all, using your calculator. Your calculator is your most important tool when you're actually dealing with finances. There's a few key buttons that are very useful. These are your fractions button. If I push this, I can then write my number as a fraction. There is also the percentage button. This one you need to remember to push the shift and then the percentage. And then instead of having to times by 100, I can actually work out a percentage just using that button. Another key thing to remember about using calculator and money is that when you're using a calculator, you need to add on the 2 decimal places. So if my answer, for example, is 0.5, you need to remember that that's actually 50 cents, so it needs to be 0.50. Using tables to complete calculations. This is where you would be actually using your table to help you to actually figure out what the next answer is. So look very carefully and look for patterns and look for trends in the information. Percentage calculations for inflation, tax, and interest. These are your percentage increase or your percentage decrease. So to work out your percentage increase or decrease, you need to actually have the increase or the decrease, which is usually classified as the change. So if it's increasing, you take away those two numbers. If it's decreasing, you take away those over the original. So it's the one you started with, and you times it by 100. So if it was percentage increase, that would be the increase. If it was percentage decrease, that would be the decrease. If it's inflation, you're going to find that it's how much it's gone up by. So it actually is a percentage increase. The next key skill is reading values off graphs. You need to make sure you're looking at your axes very, very carefully, because that's where most of you make your mistakes. You don't actually focus on what you're actually reading off the graph, and you're not looking at those little tiny segments in between the actual values. So you can actually decide, is it going up in tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and work out, is it going up in values of 2, 4, 6. So you need to actually look very carefully at those values and decide how you're going to read them off carefully. Drawing graphs is pretty much the same. Again, your axes are very, very important, because obviously if your axes are not symmetrical and they're not going up in a regular interval, you're going to have graphs that are very distorted and they're not going to come out properly. Right, so there's also converting between currencies. The best way of doing this is probably a ratio. The one way we could do this is to actually write down the ratio that's been given. For example, $1 is equal to 6 Rand. Then if I wanted to buy $100, how would I do that? I'd need to know that $100 was obviously going to be 100 times more, which would give me, it's going to cost me 600 Rand for that $100. If I had 100 Rand, I would then have to work back and find out, well, how many sixes are there in 100? And then I would work out my dollars. So the best way of doing that is a calculator. So I would be saying 100 divided by 6 is equal to, convert that to a number, it would be only $16.66, which would be rounded to 67, because always money has to have 2 decimal places. Remember, you will lose marks if you write your money with only 1 decimal place. So that's a very good key point. So that's the end of our financial maths tips. I really suggest you go dig out those old worksheets, go look on our website and find some extra examples, because that's the only way to actually succeed in this topic.